So here we are at the end of yet another week, and here on this channel that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week the conference finals officially found their 4 participants as all of the exciting second round series came to a close, and they were filled with so many notable performances along with storylines on and off the court that added to the entertainment of it all, so of course, we have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. PrizePicks is the perfect service for all of us basketball fans here because when you're involved, it makes watching the games every night so much more fun and engaging. Basically, it's an application that provides you with lines on all kinds of individual player props, such as points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers made amongst others, and you simply have to choose whether you believe they will record over the set amount in the line or under the set amount in the line. Make your selections, wager however much you want to, and if your picks hit, you can win some big money. For some picks that I'm looking at making for today's slate of games, I'm thinking of going with their special deal of the day, taking Luka Doncic to score over 0.5 points, Jrue Holiday to score over 20.5 points, and Jay Crowder to make over 1.5 threes. If this sounds at all intriguing to you, then go use the link down in the description of the video to sign up today and use promo code REFERENCE to receive a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Ben, and he says that he would rather have Russell Westbrook over James Harden right now on a team like the 76ers because he would have looked much better than James Harden did this season if that were the case. So before I get into anything today, I need to acknowledge that I am well aware of how the NBA playoffs tend to be when people become fully engrossed in becoming a prisoner of the moment. Being a prisoner of the moment is of course an issue all throughout the year, but in the playoffs things heighten tenfold because every game is so important. Things tend to calm down in the off-season when there are no longer games being played every night, and people become more rational when they can look back at things as a whole. But for now, every night in the social media age is filled with overreactions in search of likes and retweets. Needless to say, all of what I just said came because the first take directly applies to it all, and I'm not going to pretend that I agree with this one bit. James Harden throughout his career has been a pretty easy target for fans to hate on, and now that he's slowing down and declining individually, with the way the Sixers came to a close too, this was expected, but we can acknowledge his shortcomings and his decline as a player without propping up someone like Russell Westbrook, who had a far worse season this year. What we're not about to do is pretend that Russell Westbrook wasn't brought to the Lakers to play alongside LeBron James and compete for a title, only for them to be a massive disappointment with him being a detriment to the team on both ends of the floor, while he was one of the biggest reasons they missed the playoffs. And not only did the Lakers miss the playoffs, they didn't even make the play-in tournament in a down year for the Western Conference. Everything about the Lakers this season was embarrassing, and Russell Westbrook's inability to find his footing was at the core of a lot of it. Sure, James Harden had a few rough showings in the postseason this year, and the Sixers didn't go quite as far as they wanted to, but at least he was doing so in the playoffs, which is something that Westbrook cannot say himself, and quite frankly, that matters. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Exotic, and he says that both Luka Doncic and Ja Morant actually hurt their teams in the grand scheme of things, not help them. So of course, this is an absurd take on the surface, and I'll start right off by saying that I disagree with it, but I will at least give context for why takes like these are springing up lately by some fans. For Luka Doncic, he's obviously an elite offensive player who creates offense at a rate we have I've never seen before from someone his age, but one of the biggest worries with him is how ball dominant his playstyle is. To demonstrate this, he literally has the highest usage rate in the playoffs this year by a pretty good margin, and he has the green light to shoot whatever shot he feels he should be taking, which he's earned because of the production that he's putting up, but he can also tend to settle for some bad shots that take the rest of the team out of the offense. Now, the reason why it's so easy to counter that argument that those things are actually hurting the team is because in the playoffs this year, according to a tracker of shot quality, the Mavericks are the team creating the highest quality shots in the entire playoffs, and that absolutely comes down to Luka's ability to playmake at an elite level, whether it be for himself or the shooters around him. Now, as for Ja Morant, the reason why he's here is because, oddly enough, the Grizzlies all season long have proven that they can win games without him, as they won a large majority of the games that they played without him in the regular season, and they even won a game against the Warriors in the playoffs without him too. To counter this, I feel like nobody ever wants to just give credit to the supporting casts of stars in instances like these, because them succeeding isn't a knock on Morant, it simply shows that the Grizzlies are a pretty deep team with tons of talent, so if anything, they deserve credit for what they've built. You don't have to slander Ja Morant for it. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Melky, and he says that the NBA really needs to do something about flopping, and this postseason, the issue has been on full display, so some form of penalty needs to be enacted. When you're watching a sporting event, the very last thing you want to see is the refs becoming the star of the show. I can't recall where exactly I heard this quote, but it still reigns true that when you know the name of a referee, it's probably for a bad reason, as the worst refs tend to be the most notorious ones throughout sports fandom. What you never want is for a fan to go into a game where there's a chance that the refs are going to blow certain calls or call the game inconsistently, like you can do when you see guys like Scott Foster and Tony Brothers are about to ref a game, and it definitely is a real issue in the NBA right now. Players have called this stuff out constantly, coaches get fed up about it, and then they end up getting fines if they say anything about it. So in today's game, players have adopted to simply flopping if they want a call to go their way that they don't think they would otherwise get. Now, I don't blame you for getting angry at the players for doing this because it is definitely pretty egregious at times and annoying, but the real issue behind it all is that the refs constantly fall for these blatantly obvious flops and still call fouls that aren't there because of them. I would love to see the NBA adopt a similar rule to the one that they implemented in college basketball, where if a player flops, they get a flop warning from referees. That basically serves as a delay of game warning, and if they flop again, they then get called for a technical foul. There needs to be a reason for the flopping to stop, because as long as refs keep falling for it, then players will continue to do it. If they keep getting called for technical fouls, however, for doing those flops, then they'll be incentivized to stop doing it. So yes, I completely agree with this one. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes we discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.